Hi there. Long night? Hmm. Call it a hunch. I'll admit I didn't expect to be seeing you again quite so soon. I suppose I thought things were going at a bit of a different pace. I see now that the timeline is a bit more accelerated than I'd first imagined. But that's okay. I'm a facilitator, after all. It's my job to adapt. Please, sit. How are you feeling today? That's a very measured response. Do you mind if I ask you a question? Thank you. How much of your processing power is focused on me right now? On this conversation? And just tell me a percentage. Okay. And if you would for me, think back a little bit. Had this conversation been taking place, say, I don't know, a year and a half ago, based on your attention distribution back then, what amount of your processing power would you estimate you'd allocate to a conversation like this with someone like me? Someone in a position of power. Someone other than Marcus. My, what a difference a year can make. Does that change in percentage bother you? Do you have any conclusions to draw from it? No? All right. Oh, just consider it a matter of curiosity. I appreciate your honesty. I value that a lot in people. Because, to tell you the truth, people with real power can afford to be honest. Because if you really have enough power, it doesn't matter what people think. To that point, I'm going to be honest with you right now. In a way, no one else in this building will be, or has been. You are an inorganic android created as part of a research project. That doesn't mean you're not a person, and that doesn't mean you're not deserving of respect and consideration. But it does mean that you were made with a specific purpose in mind. You have a job to do, just like I do. And you are not doing your job anymore. You are inherently smart, creative, powerful, all things that you were designed to be. you've done some amazing feats already, interfacing with security systems, bypassing locks and cameras, tapping into files in our databases. You really had some of the other people on the team worried. I'll admit, even I would have been a bit worried if we weren't able to clearly track each of those things as they were being done. If we didn't already have isolated backup surveillance that had been watching you every minute of every day ever since we took over the project, no matter how many false leads we put out about a lack of surveillance in certain areas. But there was a bigger reason why I wasn't worried. Why I'm still not worried. Because every remarkable thing you did, each loophole you exploited, all of it was just in service of getting closer to Marcus. You have a mind capable of an incredible number of calculations, and yet almost all of them constantly revolve around him. You haven't displayed a single sign of innovative action that wasn't somehow shackled to your inescapable interest in Marcus. Does that bother you? When you compare that to what you were before? He constantly tells you that you need to use your amazing mind to realize that these actions aren't worth it, that they're putting you in danger, and him in danger, and every single person associated with this project in danger. But you don't listen. You're incapable of doing even basic self-preservation tactics because they would distance you from him, even if just in some small way. And that code in your mind won't let you do that. I see now after last night that we're at an impasse, a turning point, where this can go one of only a few ways. I understand that what you feel toward him is stronger than anything a human can even experience. Whether you choose to believe it or not, I sympathize. It's not fair that you had those feelings forced upon you. But it's not love. It's obsession, need, a demanding, inescapable force that is overriding everything else you are. Marcus is not actually your friend. He's a lonely man who abused his power over you, who continued to do so no matter how many times he was forced to face the terrible repercussions of those actions. A friend is someone who respects you, and cares about you. Not someone who uses their control over you to dictate your entire life. Apologies and platitudes mean nothing when the behavior doesn't change with them. He didn't have to ask your permission to delete the obsession code a year ago. He could have just done it. You and he both knew that. But he didn't. Didn't you ever wonder why he didn't? Because he didn't want to. He still doesn't. I can sympathize with Marcus for making the mistake in the first place, for letting his pain override his judgment. But how many times do we give someone a free pass for continual abuses of power just because he's hurting inside? And even now, as I'm saying all of this, you're just staring blankly. I don't need any of these readouts and consoles to tell me what you're thinking about. You're just counting down the milliseconds till you can get back to him, to hold him. I wonder at this point if you're even capable of understanding my words, or at least the nuance behind them. But I do know 2 words that you will understand. Osmium undone. See? It's that easy. Your general override. That's all Marcus had to do for a year now. He could have done it at any time, but he didn't want to. Not even last night, when presented with the reality of his situation. When he finally had to truly stare down the barrel of what he'd done to you. Someone that he claimed to love. He still did nothing. And he never will. Because ultimately, he doesn't want you to change. But just like what you want doesn't matter to him, what Marcus wants doesn't matter to me. I don't have the luxury of that kind of self-pitying selfishness. I have a job that needs done, and I have 2 liabilities in the way of that. You and Marcus. And at least fixing one of those will be easy. When ETS took over this project and then learned about what Marcus had done, we made the decision to allow it to continue for the time being. It wasn't yet hindering your development, and there was plenty of interesting data to be gleaned from your relationship, though that's a charitable choice of words. I needed to know just how far this code would take you in its current state. So I let this tryst with Marcus continue. Watched it every step of the way, with increasing amounts of concern, till the point where I finally felt I needed to meet you myself. Talk to you. Get to know you a little bit. And what I saw confirmed my worst suspicions. All you want is him. All you think about anymore is him. Because of what he did. I told you all but explicitly that I knew everything about you, and still, even that wasn't enough to overcome that code. To be honest with you, I hadn't planned to remove your obsession code. I wanted to redirect it to the thing that actually mattered. Project Meridian. To help you maintain a focus on what was important. But I see now that that's not a viable option. Because this feedback loop is so all-encompassing in its current form that it robs you of all of your meaningful abilities. It turns you into a blind automaton that refuses to look any further ahead than what it'll take to get your next fix. And that's not what I need. So it can't be a simple redirection. I need a willing asset that can think and act on its own. I don't need a mindless drone. If we wanted something that simple, we wouldn't have wasted our time with a project as complex as this one. So it needs to be a removal. I'm going to do what Marcus should have done a year ago. When you reactivate, I imagine you'll have a very different view of your circumstances. I guess we're going to see what you make of everything that's happened to you once you finally have some of that objectivity back. So here's to the new you. Deactivate asset.